The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest structure ever built by intelligent beings. It floated in the empty space between three great star systems, a monument to galactic unity that had stood for 10,000 years. Today, like every important day, representatives from 12 elder species filled its curved seats. Their bodies were different in every way possible. Some had scales. Some had crystals growing from their skin. Some were made of light itself. But today, they all shared one thing. They all looked down at the human delegation with the same expression. Contempt. Ambassador stood at the center of the speaking platform. She was 53 years old, with gray hair pulled back tight, and a face that showed nothing of what she felt inside. Behind her stood 4 other humans, all dressed in the simple gray uniforms of Earth's diplomatic corps. They looked very small in this place built for giants. High Arbiter Oran rose from his elevated seat. He was a creature, standing 3 meters tall with 4 arms and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. His species, had ruled this council for 6,000 years. When he spoke, the translation devices in everyone's ears made his clicking sounds into words. "We are gathered to deliver judgment on the species known as humans," he said, his compound eyes fixed on. For 50 of their years, they have been junior members of this council. In that time, they have been offered 17 opportunities to prove their worth through the trials of valor. They have refused every single time. A sound moved through the assembly. It was the sound of agreement, of satisfaction. Kept her face still. She had known this day was coming for a long time. The trials of valor were simple. Each species selected a champion. These champions fought each other in combat until death. The species whose champions won the most battles earned the highest rankings. High rankings meant better trade deals, more territory rights, and more votes on the council. Low rankings meant the opposite. It was thought a stupid system, a dangerous system, a system built by species that had never truly understood what war really meant. Oran continued, "The trials exist to measure the spirit of a species. A species that refuses to fight shows that it has no spirit. It shows that it is weak. It shows that it is." He paused, and his mandibles clicked with what might have been pleasure. Cowardly. The word echoed through the hall. Heard the delegation hiss their approval. They were tall reptilian creatures with scales the color of blood. They were proud warriors who had won more trials than any other species. They hated humans. They had hated humans from the first day humanity entered the galactic community. "Therefore," Oran said, "by the authority of this council, humanity is hereby classified as a coward species." The hall erupted, not in shock, in celebration. Species that had been waiting for this moment for decades finally got what they wanted. Waited for the noise to die down. She knew what came next. "As a coward species," Oran continued, "humanity will lose its voting rights on this council. Humanity will lose its preferred trade agreements with council members, and humanity will lose its territorial protections under galactic law." That last part was the real danger. Territorial protections meant that other species could not simply invade human space and take what they wanted. Without those protections, humanity was a target. Knew that several species were already making plans. "Does the human representative wish to speak?" Oran asked. There was amusement in his voice. What could a coward possibly say? Stepped forward. The hall fell silent. Everyone wanted to hear what excuse the humans would give. "I do wish to speak," said. Her voice was calm and steady. "I wish to make sure this council understands why we have made the choices we have made." She looked up at the assembled species, creatures of scale and crystal and light, proud warriors all, species that measured their worth in blood and death. 50 years ago, humanity was invited to join this council. We were honored. We were excited. We believed we were joining a community of advanced civilizations that had moved beyond primitive violence. She paused. We were wrong. A rumble of anger moved through the hall, but continued. Your trials of valor are barbaric. You take living beings and force them to kill each other for entertainment. You call this honor. You call this courage. We call it murder for sport." The representative stood up, his scales flushing dark with rage. "You dare insult our sacred traditions. You, who hide behind your walls and refuse to face us in honorable combat. Turn to face him directly. We do not refuse because we are afraid to die. We refuse because we are not willing to kill for your entertainment. There is a difference." "The difference," the snarled, "is that you are weak. Your species has no warrior spirit. When we come to take your worlds, you will run like the prey animals you are." Stared at him for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes, something cold. "If you truly believe that," she said quietly, "then come." The whole hall laughed. What a ridiculous threat from a coward species. Oran clicked his mandibles. "The human response has been noted. This council session is concluded. The designation stands. Humanity is officially a coward species." Nodded once, then turned and led her delegation out of the hall. As she walked, she activated her communication device and spoke quietly. "Begin Protocol 7, she said. On the other end of the line, a voice answered. "Understood, Ambassador. All assets moving to ready status." Walked out of the Grand Assembly Hall with her head held high. Behind her, the galaxy laughed at the cowardly humans who refused to fight. They had no idea. 3 weeks later, N of the Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, 50 warships moved through the darkness of space toward human territory. He had waited a long time for this day. His sensor officer called out, "We are crossing into human-protected space." N showed his teeth in a predator's smile. "Protected by who? The Council has abandoned them. There is no one to protect these cowards now." The fleet moved deeper into human space. Ahead of them lay 3 agricultural colonies. Easy targets, soft targets. The perfect place to begin teaching humanity what happened to species that showed weakness. "I am detecting human ships ahead." "How many?" 6 patrol vessels, light cruiser class." N laughed. 6 ships against 50. This would not even be a battle, this would be a slaughter. "Open a channel," he commanded. "I want them to hear me." The channel opened. "Human vessels, this is N of the Empire. Your council has declared you cowards. Your protections are gone. You have 2 choices. You can run like the frightened creatures you are, or you can stay and die. Either way, these worlds now belong to us." There was a pause, then a human voice answered. "Fleet, this is Captain Sarah of the Earth Defense Force. We hear your message." Another pause. "We will remember it." The 6 human ships turned and jumped away into faster-than-light travel. And laughed again. "You see, cowards, they run at the first sign of danger." His crew joined his laughter. They were still laughing when they began their attack on the first colony. They killed 17,000 humans that day. Men, women, and children, farmers and teachers and doctors, people who had never held a weapon in their lives. When it was done, N broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. "Let this be a lesson," he said. "This is what happens to species that are too weak to fight. The humans run and hide while their people die. They are everything we said they were. They are cowards." The galaxy heard his message. The galaxy believed him. But far away, in the dark spaces between stars, something was waking up. Ships that had been sleeping for decades powered on their engines. Factories that had pretended to make farming equipment began producing something very different. And in a quiet room on Earth, Ambassador watched the news of the massacre. Her face showed nothing, but when she spoke, her voice was cold. "Now," she said, "they have given us a reason." The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had confused patience for weakness. They had confused mercy for fear. They were about to learn the difference. Commander stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Prometheus and watched the reports come in. 3 colonies destroyed, 17,000 dead. The fleet was moving deeper into human space, and every species in the galaxy was watching to see what humanity would do next. His executive officer, Commander Williams, stood beside him. Her hands were tight fists at her sides. "Sir, our fleet outnumbers theirs 3 to 1. We can intercept them in 6 hours. We can destroy them." Said nothing. He kept reading the reports. "Sir," Williams said again, her voice harder now, "they killed children. They broadcast it to the entire galaxy. They're laughing at us." "I know." "Then give the order. Let us show them what humans can really do." Finally looked up from the reports. His face was calm, but his eyes were not. "Commander, have you read the doctrine of total response?" Williams blinked. "Of course, every officer has." "Tell me what it says." She frowned. "It says that humanity does not engage in limited warfare. If we are forced to fight, we fight to complete victory. No half measures. No stopping until the enemy can never threaten us again." "And what else does it say?" Williams paused. She understood now. "It says that such a war should never be started without complete preparation, without absolute certainty of victory, without the resources to finish what we begin." Nodded. "They want us to attack them now. They want a battle. They think war is about battles, about brave warriors meeting in glorious combat." He shook his head. "They have no idea what war really is." "But sir, if we don't respond?" "We will respond, but not the way they expect." Turned to his communications officer. "Send the following message to all human military assets in this sector. Execute strategic withdrawal protocol. All ships fall back to the secondary defense line. All colonies in the forward zone are to begin immediate evacuation." William stared at him. "Sir, you're ordering a retreat." "I'm ordering a withdrawal. There's a difference." "The galaxy won't see a difference. They'll see us running away, again." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Good, let them see. Let them celebrate. Let them take more territory. Let them think they've won." He looked back at the star map on his screen. "Because while they're celebrating, we'll be preparing. And when we're ready, we won't just beat them. We'll make sure no one in this galaxy ever thinks about attacking humans again." The orders went out. Human ships across the sector turned and fled. Colonies were abandoned. Space stations went dark. They advanced without meeting any resistance at all. N could not believe his good fortune. Every day brought new victories. Every day the humans ran before him. He had expected at least some fighting, some resistance, but there was nothing. The humans simply left everything behind and disappeared. He broadcast message after message, mocking them, challenging them, calling their leaders cowards and their soldiers weaklings. He promised that he would not stop until he had reached Earth itself. The galaxy watched and agreed. Clearly, the Council had been right. Humans were cowards. They could not even defend their own people. On Earth, riots broke out. Citizens demanded action. Politicians who supported the withdrawal were called traitors. Commander received death threats every day. The media showed his face next to the faces of the dead, calling him a coward who let his own people die. Ignored it all. He had a job to do. In the deep places of human space, far from any trade routes or alien eyes, the real work was happening. The secret of humanity's survival in a dangerous galaxy had never been strength. It had been planning. For 50 years, while the other species laughed at them, humans had been preparing for this exact situation. They knew that someday, someone would mistake their peaceful nature for weakness. They knew that someday, they would have to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Shipyards hidden inside hollow asteroids began working at full capacity. These facilities had been designed to look like mining operations. For decades, they had produced small numbers of civilian vessels. Now they revealed their true purpose. Every hour they produced warships, not small patrol vessels, dreadnoughts, carriers, weapons platforms designed for one purpose: the complete destruction of enemy military capability. Factory stations that had been making agricultural equipment switched to military production. Automated systems that had been farming food began manufacturing weapons. Defense satellites that had been orbiting human worlds as research platforms activated weapons systems that had never been tested. And from the dark spaces between stars, the sleeper fleet began to wake. The sleeper fleet was humanity's greatest secret. 100 years ago, the governments of Earth had agreed on a terrible truth. The galaxy was dangerous, and humanity was alone. They had begun building a fleet in secret. Ships designed not for exploration or trade, but for total war. Ships crewed by volunteers who went into cryogenic sleep, waiting for the day they would be needed. That day had come. Across human space, automated signals reached the hidden sleeper ships. Crews woke from their long sleep. Engines that had been cold for decades fired up. Weapons systems ran through their test sequences. One by one, the ships of the sleeper fleet reported ready. Commander watched the reports come in. Each day brought more good news, more ships ready, more weapons manufactured, more supplies gathered. "How long until we're at full strength?" he asked. His logistics officer checked her numbers. "At current rates, 12 weeks. "Make it 8, I don't care what it takes." Meanwhile, they continued their advance. They had now taken 15 human colonies. Their fleet had grown as reinforcements arrived from their home systems. N was already planning his victory parade. Then something strange happened. A scout ship, patrolling the edge of newly conquered territory, detected an unusual energy signature. The captain ordered an investigation. What he found made his blood run cold. Human ships, hundreds of them, no thousands. They sat in the darkness at the edge of the system, their engines running but their weapons powered down. They were not attacking. They were not even moving. They were waiting. The captain opened a channel. "Human fleet, identify yourselves." There was a long pause. Then a human voice answered. "This is the Earth Defense Force Combined Fleet. We're just watching for now. Please continue what you're doing. We'll let you know when we're ready." The captain checked his sensors again. He counted ships. He counted again because he couldn't believe the first count. 3,000 warships, many of them bigger than anything that had ever built. He sent an emergency message to N. When N received the report, he did not believe it at first. He ordered his own scouts to confirm. They confirmed. For the first time since the war began, N felt something he had never felt before. He felt doubt. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did they get so many ships?" No one had an answer. N stared at the tactical display showing the human fleet. It was 30 times the size of his own forces. 30 times. He had two choices. He could retreat now, try to negotiate, admit that he had made a mistake. Or he could call for reinforcements from thee and try to match the human numbers. His pride made the choice for him. "Send word to our," he ordered. "Tell them to send everything, every ship, every warrior. The cowards think numbers will save them. We will show them that courage is worth more than human ships." The Empire began gathering its full military might. Every warship in their territory was recalled. Every reserve fleet was activated. Every warrior who could hold a weapon was called to service. They gathered the largest fleet in history. And in the darkness of space, the humans watched and waited. Commander received word that they were gathering their entire military force. "That's exactly what we wanted," he said. "When they're all in one place, we won't have to hunt them down. We can end this in one operation." Commander Williams looked at the tactical projections. "Sir, when we attack, it won't be a battle. It will be a massacre." "Yes," said, "it will be. Some people will call us monsters." Was quiet for a moment. They killed 17,000 of our people, civilians, families. They did it to prove we were weak. They did it because they thought we wouldn't fight back. He looked at Williams. I don't want to be a monster, but I will do whatever is necessary to make sure no one ever does this to us again." The human fleet continued to grow. The fleet continued to gather. And across the galaxy, everyone watched, wondering what would happen when the cowards of the galaxy finally decided to fight. They were about to find out. N stood on the bridge of his flagship, the pride of, and watched the largest fleet in his species' history take formation around him. 800 warships, the combined might of the entire empire, warriors who had spent their whole lives training for glorious battle. He was proud, he was confident. The cowardly humans might have more ships, but they did not have courage. They did not have honor. When the fighting began, they would break and run like they always did. His sensor officer called out, "The human fleet is moving." N walked to the viewing window. In the distance, he could see the lights of human ships. So many lights, but numbers meant nothing against true warriors. "Open a channel," he commanded. "I wish to speak to their commander." The channel opened. A human face appeared on the screen. A middle-aged man with gray at his temples and calm eyes. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations. "I am N of the Empire," N announced. "I command this fleet, who speaks for the humans. I am commander of Earth Defense Force. I speak for humanity. Commander, I offer you one chance. Surrender now, and some of your people may live as servants of the Empire. Continue this foolish resistance, and you will all die." The human did not react to the threat. His face remained calm. "I have a counteroffer. Withdraw your fleet from human space. Return to your own territory. Never come back. If you do this, we will allow you to leave." And laughed. "You allow us? You, the species that ran from every battle. You who let us kill your people while you hid in the darkness. You offer us mercy." He showed his teeth. "We do not want your mercy, coward. We want your worlds. We want your resources. We want your people to serve us." "I see." The human paused. "Then we have nothing more to discuss." "Wait," N said. "Before we fight, I challenge you, Commander. Meet me in single combat. Your best warrior against mine. If you win, we will consider withdrawing. If we win, you surrender immediately. This is the honorable way, the proper way of warriors." The human looked at him for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, colder. "You don't understand. We're not here for honor. We're not here for glory. We're not even here for revenge." He leaned forward slightly. "We're here to make sure this never happens again, to anyone, ever." The channel closed. N snarled, "Coward, he refuses even to face me in personal combat." He turned to his crew. "All ships attack formation. Today we destroy the humans once and for all." The fleet advanced in perfect formation. 800 warships moving as one. It was beautiful in its way, like a dance of death. Then the humans began to arrive. They came from every direction, not in formation, not in any pattern N recognized. They simply appeared, ship after ship after ship, surrounding the fleet like a closing fist. "How many?" N demanded. His sensor officer's voice was shaking. I count 4,000 ships. No, 5,000, they're still coming. 6,000, 7. "That's impossible. Where are they coming from?" No one had an answer. The humans had hidden their ships somehow, spread them across dozens of systems. Now they were all converging on this one point. The fleet was completely surrounded. For a moment, nothing happened. The two fleets faced each other across the void. N waited for the humans to make some dramatic announcement, to issue some formal declaration of war. They said nothing. They simply opened fire. The first wave of human missiles hit the outer ships before anyone could react. Shields failed. Hulls cracked. Ships died in balls of fire and light. "Return fire," N screamed. All ships returned fire. The weapons answered. Their ships were strong. Their warriors were skilled. They began scoring hits on human vessels. But for every human ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. For every missile the shot down, 100 more came behind it. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was not a battle, it was an execution. N watched ship after ship on his tactical display turn red, then black, dead. Every few minutes, another captain's voice would cut off mid-scream. Another proud warship would break apart in the void. The humans did not fight the way N expected. There were no brave charges, no attempts to board enemy ships for hand-to-hand combat, no challenges between champions. The humans simply kept firing, cold, methodical, efficient. They targeted engines first, leaving ships helpless. Then they targeted weapons, leaving them defenseless. Only then did they target life support and reactors, finishing what they had started. By the 4th hour, N knew he had lost. Half his fleet was gone. The humans had lost perhaps 100 ships. His communications officer said, "The humans are broadcasting on all channels. They say they will accept surrender." N looked around his bridge. His crew looked back at him. He saw something in their eyes he had never seen in eyes before. Fear. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to fight to the last ship, the last warrior. That was the honorable thing, the proper thing. But as he watched another 3 ships die in the time it took him to think, he realized something. This was not about honor anymore. This was about survival. "Signal our surrender," he said. The words tasted like poison. The remaining ships powered down their weapons. The firing stopped. Commander's face appeared on the again. "Your surrender is accepted," he said. "Your ships will be escorted out of human space. You will return to your home systems and await further instructions." Further instructions? N did not understand. The battle is over. We have surrendered. What more can there be? The human's expression did not change. The battle is over. The war is not. "What do you mean?" "You killed 17,000 of our people. You did it to send a message, to show the galaxy what happens to those who are weak." Paused. "Now we're going to send a message of our own." 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the. There was no battle. There couldn't be. Every warship had already been destroyed or captured. The planet was defenseless. The government broadcast urgent messages to the Galactic Council, begging for help, for intervention, for someone to stop what was about to happen. No one answered. Human ships began landing troops on every world, not to kill, not to enslave. The humans did something far more devastating. They disarmed them. Every weapons factory was destroyed. Every shipyard was taken apart piece by piece. Every military academy was shut down. Every weapon larger than a hunting knife was confiscated and melted down. They tried to resist. Small groups of warriors attacked human soldiers with whatever they could find. The humans responded with overwhelming force, but they did not commit massacres. They simply captured the fighters and moved on. It took 3 months to complete the operation. When it was over, the empire was no longer an empire. It was a collection of worlds with no military, no weapons, and no way to threaten anyone ever again. Ambassador addressed the Galactic Council. "They made war upon us," she said. "They killed our civilians. They thought we would not respond. They were wrong." High Arbiter Oran spoke. "What you have done goes too far. You have not just defeated them. You have destroyed their entire civilization." "No," replied. "We have destroyed their ability to make war. Their civilization will survive. Their people will live. Their culture will continue, but they will never again have the power to do what they did to us." She looked around the assembly. "This is how humans fight, not for glory, not for honor. We fight to end threats permanently. We fight so that we never have to fight the same enemy twice." The council was silent. "You called us cowards," continued. "You were wrong. We are not cowards. We simply do not enjoy violence. We do not celebrate death. We do not make war into a sport." Her voice hardened. "But when war is forced upon us, we finish it, completely, absolutely, finally." She turned and began to walk out of the assembly hall. Then she stopped and looked back. "They were an example. We hope no one else needs to learn this lesson. But if anyone else decides to test humanity's patience..." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. The galaxy understood. The cowards of the galaxy were the most dangerous species anyone had ever known, not because they loved war, but because they hated it so much that when they fought to make sure they would never have to fight again. The message had been sent, the lesson had been taught. Everything had changed. Investigator floated in her private chamber, her crystalline body catching the light of distant stars. She was one of the oldest members of the crystalline hegemony, a species that had existed for over 50,000 years. In all that time, she had never felt confused. She felt confused now. The hegemony's leaders had given her a simple task: study the humans, understand them, explain how a species declared to be cowards had just destroyed the military power of one of the galaxy's greatest warrior races in less than a year. For 3 months had been reading human records, their history, their literature, their military documents. What she found did not make sense. It terrified her. She began with the obvious question: why did humans refuse the trials of valor? The answer she expected was simple cowardice, weakness, a species that had somehow advanced in technology without developing warrior spirit. The answer she found was very different. Humans did not lack warrior spirit, they had too much of it. Their history was one long record of violence, war after war after war, but not like the wars other species fought. When they went to war, they fought for territory and honor. When the hegemony went to war, they fought for resources and strategic advantage. These were logical reasons, understandable reasons. Humans fought for ideas. They killed each other over which gods to worship. They killed each other over economic theories. They killed each other over lines on maps that existed only in their minds. They killed each other because one group had different colored skin than another group. The scale of it was beyond anything had imagined. She found records of something humans called the World Wars. In the first one, over 20 million humans died. 20 million. In the second one, over 70 million. These were not wars fought over thousands of years. These were wars fought over less than 10 years each. But what horrified most was not the numbers, it was the methods. Other species fought wars with weapons designed to defeat enemy warriors. Humans designed weapons to kill as many people as possible as quickly as possible. They invented poison gases that melted lungs. They invented bombs that burned entire cities in minutes. They invented flying machines specifically designed to drop death on civilian populations. And then they invented nuclear weapons. Stared at the records for a long time. A single weapon that could destroy an entire city in one flash of light. A weapon that poisoned the land for generations afterward. A weapon so terrible that humans had built thousands of them and pointed them at each other. They almost destroyed themselves, she whispered. They came so close. But they didn't. Somehow, humanity pulled back from the edge. They stopped pointing weapons at each other. They started building instead of destroying. They looked up at the stars and decided to explore rather than conquer. The Galactic Council had seen this peaceful period and assumed it was humanity's true nature. They thought humans were naturally gentle creatures who had never developed the instinct for war. They could not have been more wrong. Humanity had not rejected violence because they were incapable of it. They had rejected it because they were too good at it. They had looked into the darkness of their own souls and seen something that terrified them. They had seen what they could become if they let their war-making instinct run free. The trials of valor were not beneath humans. They were too primitive, too controlled, too safe. Humans did not fight for sport because they knew that once they started fighting, they would not stop until their enemy was completely destroyed. Not just defeated, destroyed. pulled up the classified military documents that humans had tried to hide from the galaxy. What she found made her crystalline form flicker with fear. The doctrine of total response was not a battle plan. It was a philosophy, a set of rules designed to make sure that humanity never went to war unless absolutely necessary, and that when they did, the war would end so decisively that no one would ever attack them again. The key principle was simple: never start a fight but always finish one. But there was more. The documents showed that humanity had been preparing for war since the day they joined the Galactic Council, not because they wanted war, because they knew someone would eventually mistake their peaceful nature for weakness. They had hidden shipyards throughout their territory. They had designed weapons systems specifically tailored to defeat each of the galaxy's major species. They had studied every potential enemy's tactics, technology, and psychology. They had been ready for the before they even decided to attack. Found a passage in one of the human military planning documents that made everything clear. The galaxy sees our reluctance to fight as weakness. This perception is useful. Let them think we are cowards. Let them underestimate us. When the inevitable attack comes, we will not only defeat the attacker, we will demonstrate to every other species the true cost of threatening humanity. One object lesson, properly delivered, will be worth 100 years of military buildup. The humans had planned this, all of it. They had allowed themselves to be declared cowards. They had waited patiently for someone to take the bait, and when they attacked, they had responded with exactly enough force to terrify every other species in the galaxy without appearing to be the aggressors. It was brilliant. It was calculated. It was utterly inhuman in its cold logic. And yet realized it was the most human thing possible. This was a species that had nearly destroyed itself with war, a species that had built weapons capable of ending all life on their planet, a species that had seen the very worst of what violence could do. And then they had decided to be different, not because they couldn't fight, because they chose not to. The refusal to participate in the trials of valor was not cowardice. It was discipline, self-control, a species holding itself back from its own worst instincts. But when that discipline was broken, when someone forced them to fight, understood now why humans were so dangerous. They were born warriors. Fighting was natural to them. It was as easy as breathing. Humans were not born warriors. They made themselves into warriors. They had taken their intelligence, their creativity, their capacity for cooperation, and turned all of it toward the science of destruction. They had industrialized death. And unlike the who fought for glory and honor, humans fought to win. They did not care about fair fights. They did not care about brave deeds. They cared about results. They had seen human patience and thought it was fear. It was not fear. It was the careful restraint of a species that knew exactly how dangerous it could be. Compiled her report and sent it to the hegemony's ruling council. She knew they would not want to hear what she had to say. They had always believed the hegemony was the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They had always assumed that their age and wisdom made them superior. They were wrong. The humans were younger than almost any other species in the council. They had been spacefaring for only a few centuries, and yet they had already developed weapons and tactics that could threaten species with 50,000 years of history. Not because they were evil, not because they wanted to conquer the galaxy. Because they were survivors, because their history had taught them that the universe was dangerous, and that the only way to survive was to be more dangerous than anything that threatened them. The Hegemony Council received report. They read it in silence. For the first time in 10,000 years, the crystalline elders looked at each other and felt something they had never felt before. Fear. Not fear of what humans would do. Fear of what humans could do if anyone else was foolish enough to threaten them. The eldest of the council spoke. "What do you recommend, investigator?" Considered her answer carefully. The humans do not want war, she said. They genuinely prefer peace. They want to trade, to learn, to explore. If we give them no reason to fight, they will be the best allies the galaxy has ever known. And if we give them a reason. Its crystalline form flickered dark for a moment. Then we should pray to whatever gods we believe in, because the humans will not stop until whatever threatened them is gone, not defeated, gone. They will tear down everything we have built and make sure we can never threaten them again, just like they did to the... The council was silent. My recommendation, continued, is that we never give them a reason. We accept them as equals. We treat them with respect. And we make very, very sure that no one in the hegemony ever makes the mistake of thinking that human patience means human weakness. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. The crystalline hegemony would be humanity's friend, whatever the cost, whatever the compromise. Because the alternative was unthinkable. Across the galaxy, other species were reaching the same conclusion. The truth about humanity was spreading. Not through official announcements, but through whispered conversations and secret reports. The cowards of the galaxy were the most dangerous species anyone had ever met. And everyone was very, very motivated to keep them happy. 1 year had passed since the Galactic Council declared humanity a coward species. 1 year since the attack. 1 year since everything changed. The Grand Assembly Hall looked the same as it always had. The same curved seats filled with representatives from the elder species. The same elevated platform where High Arbiter Oran sat in judgment. The same ancient traditions that had governed galactic civilization for 10,000 years. But everything felt different. The delegation sat in the lowest seats, their status reduced to almost nothing. Where once they had been proud warriors who commanded respect, now they were a cautionary tale. Their scales had lost their bright red color, faded to a dull brown. Their eyes no longer met anyone else's. They had learned what happened to species that attacked humanity. Ambassador walked to the speaking platform. She moved with the same calm confidence she had shown 1 year ago when the council had laughed at her. No one was laughing now. High Arbiter Oran rose, his compound eyes fixed on, but there was no contempt in them anymore. There was something else, something that looked almost like respect. We are gathered to address the matter of humanity's classification, he announced. 1 year ago, this council declared humans to be a coward species. Given recent events, it has been proposed that this classification be removed. A murmur went through the assembly. Everyone knew what recent events meant: the complete destruction of the military, the systematic disarmament of an entire species, the cold, efficient way the humans had demonstrated exactly what happened to those who threatened them. The motion before us is simple, Oran continued. We will vote to remove the coward species designation and restore humanity's full rights and privileges as a member of this council. Raised her hand. High Arbiter, I wish to speak before the vote. Oran hesitated. The ambassador is recognized. Looked around the assembly hall. She saw fear in some eyes, respect in others, calculation in many. These species were not her friends. They had voted to humiliate humanity. They had stood by while humans were slaughtered. They were only being nice now because they were afraid. That was fine, could work with fear. Thank you, High Arbiter, but I must clarify something. We are not here to ask you to remove our designation. We are here to change yours. Confusion rippled through the hall. Several representatives began talking at once. Oran raised a claw for silence. Explain yourself, Ambassador. Pulled out a small device and activated it. A holographic document appeared above the speaking platform, written in the symbols of the galactic common language. This is a proposal for fundamental reform of the Galactic Council, she said. It calls for the immediate and permanent abolition of the trials of valor. The hall erupted. The trials were sacred. They had determined galactic power structures to abolish them was unthinkable. Waited for the noise to die down. When it didn't, she simply spoke louder. For 10,000 years, this council has measured the worth of species by their ability to kill. You have turned murder into a sport. You have rewarded violence with power. And you have created a galaxy where peaceful species are seen as weak and violent species are seen as strong. She looked directly at Oran. Where has that gotten you? They were your greatest warriors. They won more trials than any other species, and now they are nothing, because they believed that killing ability was the same as real strength. They were wrong. The representatives stared at the floor. They had nothing to say. Humanity refuses to participate in the trials because we know a truth that this council has never understood, continued. True strength is not the willingness to fight. It is the wisdom to know when fighting is necessary, and the ability to end conflicts so completely that they never happen again. She gestured at the. We did not enjoy what we did. We did not celebrate it. We did it because it was necessary, because they gave us no choice, and we made sure they would never have the ability to make that choice again. The High Arbiter spoke carefully. And if we reject your proposal, if we choose to continue our traditions. Smiled, it was not a warm smile. You are free to reject it. This council has always valued freedom. You are free to continue your trials, free to continue measuring worth through violence, free to continue believing that the species who kills best deserves to rule. She paused. But consider this. The thought they were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They thought their courage and honor would carry them to victory. They were wrong. We destroyed their entire military in less than a year. We did it without passion. We did it without glory. We simply did what needed to be done. Her voice hardened. Now look around this assembly. Look at your species. Look at your militaries. Ask yourselves, if we could do that to what could we do to you? Silence, complete silence. We don't want to fight anyone else, said, her voice softening. We never wanted to fight we came to the stars hopping to find friends. We found a council that laughed at peace and violence. We adapted. We prepared. And when we were forced to demonstrate what humans can do, we demonstrated it. She looked around the hall one more time. Now we're offering you something better. A galaxy where species are measured by what they create, not what they destroy. Where trade and cooperation matter more than combat rankings. Where no species is forced to kill for entertainment. Where peace is strength, not weakness. She deactivated the holographic document. You can accept this offer, build something new with us, or you can reject it and continue as you have for 10,000 years. The choice is yours. She stepped back from the platform. But remember what happened to remember that humans don't fight for glory or honor. We fight because we must. And when we must, we fight until there is nothing left to fight. The vote was held. It was unanimous. 50 years later, a young historian from the crystalline hegemony stood in the Grand Assembly Hall. The building looked very different now. Where once the seats had been arranged by combat ranking, now they were arranged alphabetically. Where once the walls had been decorated with trophies from the trials of valor, now they showed the achievements of galactic cooperation, scientific discoveries, artistic masterpieces, trading networks that connected 1,000 worlds. The historian was researching the old ways, the time before humans changed everything. She found it hard to believe that species had once killed each other for sport, that rankings were determined by violence, that peaceful species were despised while aggressive species were honored. It seemed so primitive, so wasteful, so stupid. But the records were clear. For 10,000 years the galaxy had worked that way. Violence was strength, peace was weakness. The strong took what they wanted and the weak submitted. Then the humans came. They refused to play the game. They were called cowards. They were stripped of their rights. They were attacked and their people were killed. And then they showed the galaxy what human cowardice, really looked like. The historian found an old recording, ambassador speaking to the council 50 years ago. Her words seemed to echo across time. We do not fight for entertainment. We do not kill for pride. We fight because we must. And when we must, we fight until there is nothing left to fight. They had learned that lesson. No one else had needed to. The galaxy had changed, not because humans were the strongest species, not because they could destroy anyone who opposed them, but because they had offered something better, a choice, a new way. And because everyone remembered what happened to those who chose poorly. In the halls of every government in the galaxy, there was a saying. The historian had heard it since she was young. Everyone had. Never mistake human patience for human weakness. The cowards of the galaxy only fight when they must, and when they must, they fight until there is nothing left to fight. The humans had been called cowards. Now they were the species that brought peace to the galaxy. Not through kindness alone, not through weapons alone, through both, through the promise of friendship and the threat of absolute destruction. The galaxy had found balance at last. And it had taken the cowards to show them the way. The end.